The worm wiggles along, stretching and slinking, with all its wiggling, twisting, and turning. It's a wonder a worm knows where it's headed. It has no eyes, no nose, no ears, and hardly any brain at all. Can you cover your eyes? Maybe you could bury your head into a pillow. Then you'll have your hands free. Yeah, so cover your eyes somehow. And then can you plug your nose with one hand? Use your pincher fingers like this and plug your nose. Plug your nose. And then let's see, can we cover our ears? Well, I could put one of my ears down to my shoulder, and then I can use my other hand to cover my other ear. There I am with my eyes closed. No nose, no, I can't smell. Covering up my ears so I can't hear, and hardly any brain at all. That would be a different way to be, wouldn't it? But a worm knows what's happening, even without eyes or nose or ears or a brain. It can feel the vibrations on the ground. Vibrations are what happens after something makes a motion like this. Can you take your hand or your foot and stomp it on the floor? Or hit something nearby that's soft like a couch or a pillow? Yeah, or the floor. And you can feel in your hand almost like a little bit of a wiggly feeling in your hand or your fingers when you do that. Those are the vibrations. And worms are so sensitive, they can feel that. And they can know what's happening. And the worm knows what to do when it feels a hungry robin nearby. It slips back into its burrow. Hiding is the only way it can protect itself from things that want to eat it. Worms also hide from the sun. They have to live in soil that is not dry. It has to be damp soil because they breathe air through their skin. If they're in the hot sun or in dry dirt, their skins dry up and then they can't breathe. So if you find a worm, you can look at it in your hand for a few moments, but then you need to put it right back down in the moist dirt, don't you? So it doesn't suffocate and die. We want worms to live, don't we? They're helper critters for us. Sometimes worms crawl to the surface to find food. They pick out dead and rotting plants to drag back to their burrows. These plants have even tinier little animals on them. So tiny you can't see them, and they're called bacteria. Worms eat those little teeny tiny animals. Healthy plants do not. Worms pick the leaves with pointy ends rather than round ones. So here's a old dead leaf with a pointy end on it. And it says no one knows why. That's just what they like. They like the pointy kind better. Worms also eat molds and mushrooms. They slurp the hair-like strands of mold, the same way you might slurp strands of spaghetti. Worms eat right up here at the door of their burrow. That's the entrance. Then, each worm covers any leftover plants with its castings. This pile of worm castings is called a midden. It has a name, a midden. It hides the top of the worm's burrow, and it acts like a door to keep out weather and rain. Maybe snow and stuff like that worms don't like. In the springtime, before the weather warms up, worms wiggle to the surface to mate. Worms are different from most other animals. Each worm is both a mommy and a daddy. Yeah, this worm right here is a mommy and a daddy. This worm right here is a mommy and a daddy. But they still need each other. And so after mating, each worm crawls back into its burrow. When the weather cools, the worm makes a cocoon near its head. Slowly, the worm begins to move backwards. The cocoon inches forward on the worm's body, just like a ring on your finger would move. The cocoon passes over the openings in the worm's body. Up to 30 eggs slip out of the openings and into the cocoon. In a few minutes, the cocoon slips off the worm's head, just like a ring would slip off your finger. Then the ends of the cocoon close. I think this is the cocoon right here, where the ends have closed. This is what it looks like before the ends are closed. They're open here. And inside the cocoon, the eggs are fertilized. In about 3 weeks, the eggs hatch. Out of about 30 eggs, only 3 or 4 wormlets. That's the name for a baby worm, a wormlet. Only 3 or 4 wormlets emerge from each cocoon. They look like tiny pieces of thread, less than an inch long. But they have everything that a worm has, and they live completely on their own. They don't need their parents' help. The wormlets itch along, finding bits of dead plants to eat, dragging them to their tunnels and covering any leftovers with their castings. They wiggle underground, they loosen the soil, and they make tunnels, just like big worms. Even tiny wormlets help the soil. These babies grow fast. In 6 weeks, they are adult worms. That's a short time, 6 weeks. They're all grown up. In the wintertime, the soil near the surface freezes. The worms plug up their tunnels and they move down, down, down to warmer soil. They stay there until springtime. Then they wiggle, wiggle, wiggle up, tunneling and twisting and turning until they're right under your feet again. That's what the worms are doing right now here in Montana. Vegetables and flowers grow better. Trees grow bigger. Grass grows greener because there are thousands of wiggling worms at work. But say thank you to the worms. Thank you, worms, for the, what's this? That's right, flower. Thank you, worms, for the flowers. And what's this here? Looks like maybe the leaves of this flower. And there's some green things growing here, maybe some grass. Hey, thank you for the green grass, worms. What does that look like to you? Like maybe a tomato or something? Say thank you for the juicy tomatoes. This says, find out more about worms. And you can do that by digging up a worm. Yeah. And you can very carefully pull the worm through your fingers and just feel it. Is it smooth and slippery, or can you feel the little bristles? Yeah, just check out some worms. And there's the back pages where there's so many worms wiggling around. Let's see. That is the end of the story. All about worms. Well, we can thank the author, Wendy Pfeffer, and the artist, Steve Jenkins, for making this great book for us. Thank you, Wendy. Thank you, Steve. Thanks for your good work in the world. And I will see you guys another time. Bye-bye.